Welcome, everyone, to a great presentation by Anna Marie Fryer. She is an instructor in training, and this is the culmination of her training. Tonight's presentation is 30 minutes long. She has been working extremely hard to get all of the requirements completed. Plus, she is a full-time teacher, and she has been developing a lionfish hunting course and so many other things she has going on in her life. But we're really happy that she's here with Scuba Educators International and Life Worth Leading. And thank you all for attending. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Anna Marie.
All right. Thank you so much, Gabrielle. I just wanted to take a moment and say thanks to everyone for being here. I'm really excited to have people to talk to and not just to be talking to a screen and a couple other people. It's really nice to see some friendly, familiar faces as well as people I have yet to meet. So thank you for being here. We're going to be talking a little bit today about marine life identification in primarily the Gulf of Mexico as it pertains to the Florida coastline. So we are really just focusing in that area. So our description for today, this will probably be the only one that I really read to you, but I just want to make clear what our goals are. So the presentation equips students with basic identifying traits of commonly found saltwater marine life in the Gulf of Mexico, specifically Florida. And we're going to cover identification of snapper and grouper specifically, but we're also going to be looking at triggerfish, jacks, tilefish, hogfish, and then some of what I call lucky finds in Panama City. There's no way in 30 minutes I would be able to cover everything that you're able to see. I'm just highlighting some of the major species that we see, and I'd be happy to continue with identification stuff for students who are interested in this in the future. We could expand on this. But I'll also be including some eels, rays, shark, octopuses, and some other things that I like. And this presentation is a good introduction for divers that want to improve their identification skills and enjoy diving in a new way. But it's also hopefully a very small step forward in helping people who might be interested in fish surveying in the future. And fellow SEI instructor Victor, he is the go-to guy for that. So I hope you will all consider after this looking into fish surveying for scuba diving in the Taylor County area. All right, so our first part is just going to cover those first set of fish that I mentioned: snapper, grouper, triggerfish, jacks, tilefish, and hogfish. And the first two snappers that I'm showing you are ones that are commonly misidentified for the other. So the most common snapper in our area is the red snapper. And there are other snappers that do end up getting confused with this one. So I wanted to kind of give you a couple identifiers about this so that when you see it, you can be sure that's definitely a red snapper. And identification is especially important for people who are looking to getting into things like spearfishing, because you can't take in the wrong fish. You could get in lots of trouble. You could get fined. So we want to make sure we know exactly what fish we're looking at. Similarly, for surveying, you want to make sure you're accurately representing what it is that you're looking at in the waters. So this is our red snapper, and the red snapper is a little bit different than other snappers in how its anal fin is pointy. You can kind of see that on the bottom right-hand corner of this image. All of the other snappers I'm going to show you today have rounded anal fins. So this is one surefire way to know that you're looking at a red snapper. It is usually found schooling. They're very active. They're carnivorous, like most of the fish we're going to be talking about today. They can have forked or blunt tails. And the red snapper tends to get from 2 to 3 feet. We see them in the shallows where we dive, but you can see them very, very deep as well. They're most common on reefs and artificial wrecks, structures, because that's where they're hunting as well. So similar to that, you'll see here a very similar looking snapper. It's red in color as well. It has a little more yellow on it, but it's got that rounded anal fin. And that's something that's really important, an important distinguisher between the red snapper and the blackfin snapper. And then, of course, the blackfin snapper is named such because it has a very prominent black spot on its pectoral fin. And I've got a red arrow kind of pointing to that for you. So that and the rounded anal fin are really the two main ways that we're going to identify the blackfin snapper from the red snapper. Both are native to our waters. This one has a longer snout than the red snapper, and they're often mistaken one for the other. Similarly, the next two snappers I'm going to be showing you can sometimes be confused for the other. The first is the dog snapper, and that's got a really interesting mouth and teeth shape that protrude even when the mouth is closed. So it's an olive brown color. It has kind of a brownish tinge, and it is lighter on the sides. It has different triangles and spots. You can notice a couple of the spots below the eye. If you look carefully at this image just above the protruding teeth, there's a couple spots there. That's a way that we identify different types of snapper as well. And this has a very enlarged upper jaw that you can again see even when the mouth is closed. So this is our dog snapper. And it's sometimes hard to identify from our next one, which is called the gray snapper, or in our area more commonly, it's called the mangrove. I don't hear very many people refer to it as a gray snapper. It's normally just a mangrove. So our mangrove is very similar to our dog snapper in just initial insight. It has a little bit more prominent striping vertically, and it's dark brown, gray in color. It does have some reddish orange spots along it. And again, it has those canine teeth, slightly less prominent than the dog snapper, but still very easy to see and identify, much more so than, say, the black fin snapper or the red snapper. The younger ones, much like many fish, they kind of develop as they age, and their spots, their markings will change over time. So younger gray snappers have a stripe from the snout through the eye all the way to the upper edge of the gill cover, and that goes away over time as well, or becomes less prominent. So now we're going to move over from snapper into grouper, and I just found this photo and I loved it. This is a Goliath grouper, the biggest of the grouper that we tend to see, and Gabrielle and some of us were lucky enough to be able to go to South Florida for the aggregation this year to see lots of Goliath grouper. And this is a really phenomenal photo of just how large they can be. And it gives you a great shot of the wide open mouth. So these are quite large. Like the snappers, their markings change quite a bit over time. And they have dark body bands all over that are especially more striped when they're younger, and then kind of become more blotchy as they age. They have huge mouths, just like you saw in the last photo. They can open them extremely wide, and their mouth extends far past their eye, kind of like a Pac-Man, just really, really wide mouth. And these guys are really easy to spot when they're fully adult because they're absolutely huge. But when they're smaller, they can sometimes be confused for other grouper like Nassau grouper. Thankfully, in our area, it's pretty easy to identify Goliath grouper. Our next grouper we're going to talk about is the red grouper. And this one's quite easy to identify because it is red. Although I'm going to get some audience participation really quick. How many of you remember our colors? And as we descend in the water, which color do we lose first? Anybody call it out?
Red.
Was it red?
Yes. I'm not sure who that was at first, but red, absolutely. So we're going to lose that first, which makes this fish harder and harder to identify depending on your depth, right? So this is a great time to use your flashlight to be sure of what you're looking at, especially with anything red like our red snappers, red groupers. The groupers have the very distinctive grouper shape in their mouth and in their fins, but this one also has beautiful dots all along it. So it also, like some of the snappers we saw, has these lovely dots right under the eye that I tried to circle there for you. And that's one way you can tell this grouper from some of the other. And it's got that beautiful reddish brown tinge to it. So really gorgeous, and highly recommend shining your light on it so you can really take in the color underwater, which will be quite lost. The gag grouper is also known as the gray grouper. And this sometimes gets confused with the black grouper, which looks very similar, but is just a little bit darker. It's got a very long compressed body, and the colors vary greatly depending on the size and age of the fish. They're brownish gray, and they're paler, lower on their bodies, which is common with a lot of the species we see in our waters. They are lighter when they're smaller, and they have smaller markings on them. I left a little fun fact down here that I thought was cool. The Greek words micro for small and scale. So it's in reference to the scales on the fish being incredibly small. So the Greek roots and the Latin roots for this particular fish name is in reference to how incredibly small their scales are. And we're going to see another fish coming up, the parrotfish, which in contrast has very, very large scales. So I just thought that was cool. The Greek noted there. Here is the gray triggerfish. And I don't know, as some divers are afraid of sharks, which I think is silly because I love sharks, but I'm a little bit afraid of triggerfish. I'm not going to lie to you. These things are very territorial. They're very cool looking. They're gorgeous. They look a little silly because they have such a wide body or a tall body and such a tiny little mouth. But inside that mouth, there's some really incredible teeth, and they will not think twice about trying to fend off divers who get too close to their eggs. So they're a nice olive gray in color. The gray triggerfish is the only triggerfish that we have in our waters. If you go a little further south, you're open up to many other species of triggerfish, which are much more colorful and beautiful. But I think the shape of this is incredible, and I especially love on the tail, the elongated lobes. They're really nice. Here's those teeth I was talking about. You do not want to get bit by a triggerfish, and they will bite. I have watched them bite fins of other divers, and I've seen videos of them taking hunks out of actual flesh of people. So I'm not afraid of triggerfish, but I don't want to mess with them either, and I stay my distance. Our next is the greater amberjack. There's also the lesser amberjack, and this is the only jack we're featuring today just because of time constraints. But this is the one that I tend to see most often when I'm diving in, say, Panama City. They school and they have this beautiful silvery color to them that's kind of lost in the next diagram, which is why I wanted to make sure you had this in front of you. You'll see just dozens or hundreds of these at a time, and they're often just above a reef or an artificial wreck. They love to school where there's lots to eat. They have a beautiful dark amber stripe along their head, and it goes all the way from their nose back to their dorsal fin. They've got a nice silvery, shiny white belly like I was showing you in the last picture. And then when they're younger, they actually have vertical stripes along the sides of them. I think the easiest way to identify the amberjack is from their fin shape. Their tail fin shape is very distinctive. And while there are other jacks, it's pretty easy to identify in Panama City, at least, which one of these is the amberjack. So there's the greater and the lesser, and both of them are quite common, I would say, where we tend to dive. Our golden tilefish, I'll admit, this is one I have not been lucky enough to see, and it is usually a little further offshore, but the colors are incredible. This is another one similar to the red grouper that I would say, if you're ever fortunate enough to see it, to shine your light on it, not in its eyes, we never want to do that to marine life, but get a good look at the color of the scales. It's really beautiful. They have this really neat crest before their dorsal fins. If you kind of look above the eye, there's that little yellow fin there. That's a crest before its very, very long dorsal fins. And they have very long anal fins as well, which are great ways to be able to identify them, along with that distinctive blue line that goes right through the center of the body. That's a pretty surefire way to know that you're looking at a tilefish. And I hope I get to see one of these in person very soon. There's also the blue line or gray tilefish. It doesn't have that same bright color exuberance that the golden one has, but this is actually a little more common in our area. So it still has a nice stripe that is underlined in blue from the snout to the tip of their eye. If you kind of see it, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but right here, there's this light blue line, and that's another way to kind of know what you're looking at. They have that very long dorsal and anal fin, and unlike the golden tilefish, they don't have that crest right before the top dorsal fin. So that little yellow crest that was there on the golden does not exist on the blue line or gray tilefish. So if you're in a low light condition and you're trying to see which tilefish is which, or trying to get a really good idea of what species it is you're looking at, look for the crest and see if it's there. It's more likely that it's the golden, and if it's absent, much more likely that it's the blue line or the gray tilefish. The hogfish, this is one of the most fun looking of the fish we frequent or the fish we see while frequenting the wrecks in Panama City. And one of the biggest identifiers are those 3 really long spines on the dorsal fin there. It has beautiful coloring, a very distinctive shape. This one's kind of hard to misidentify. If you're familiar with what a hogfish looks like and those beautiful lobes on the back fin, it has similar lobes on its tail fin to the triggerfish. And it also has some scary teeth as well, but a very distinctive and different looking shape. So the hogfish is one I do see quite often when I'm diving in Panama City. But the colors obviously are muted the deeper we are. So again, if you're able to, without disturbing the fish or shining light in their eye, if you're able to get a light on it to appreciate the colors, it's really quite amazing.
Anne Marie?
Yeah.
So I'm getting a really bad feedback from, I think both you have 2 devices with speakers on.
Okay.
You mute the one you're not using, I think that would go away.
Yes. Let me see if I can. I didn't realize that was happening. Thank you for saying something. That was Bill, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me if it's gone away now.
Much better. Thank you.
Yeah, much
Thank
better.
you.
Also, to let you know, Anna Marie, the transitions are kind of freezing up. And so a lot of times when you have that bubble transition, we're only seeing half of it. It's kind of frozen.
Uh-oh, okay.
Yeah.
Does it ever get to
It does
fully...
eventually. When you're getting ready to click to the next slide, it'll show itself.
Okay, I'll try to slow down a little bit for that. Can you see the parrotfish in front of you now?
Yeah, it's all good.
Awesome. Thank you for letting me know. That's really helpful feedback. We were talking earlier about the parrotfish and just how in comparison to some of the other fish, it has very, very large scales. So our stoplight parrotfish is the most common parrotfish that you'll see here. Can everybody see the full screen? Hopefully. It's got a really nice, colorful and elongated body like many of the other fish we're looking at. It has a blunt, rounded face and really nice curved crescent tail fin with those little lobes as well. And it goes through, like a lot of fish, pretty significant changes, but specifically with its color, less so its markings, but the color changes quite a bit as it ages, but it never loses those really large scales. And it has a mouth that's shaped a little bit more like a beak than some of our other fish we've been looking at today, say like grouper or snapper. This one has more of a beak-shaped mouth. And probably the most fascinating thing about parrotfish are that they can actually change and adapt their gender. There are a few species of animals in the world that do this, and they can kind of combat lessening population by changing gender to increase breeding among male and female fish. So they are able to continue reproducing even when they don't have fish of the opposite gender nearby, which is a pretty amazing evolutionary feat. Now, I don't know if anybody here loves dogs, but I sure do. And when I was talking about overview of our lucky finds in the ocean, I had to put a picture of my dog, Lucky. You're probably not going to see Lucky in the ocean anytime soon. She doesn't love it there. We've tried, but she hopefully will help us see some other really cool things. So these are just some highlights. They're not things that we see too often, but it really depends on how lucky you are and exactly where you're diving. So our octopus, this is one of about 4 or 5 different kinds you can kind of see in our area. It's called the octopus maya, but a more common term for this particular octopus is the 4-eyed Mexican octopus. And this one's really beautiful in color, does change color, but is a really incredible find if we're ever so lucky in the Gulf. We have 5 different types of sea turtles here, and I was thinking about putting them all on one slide, but knowing Gabrielle, I felt like I should just include one for each one. And this is the Kemp's Ridley, one of our smaller sea turtles here. And it has less decorative shell than some of the other ones. And it's one of our smaller species. We have the green sea turtle, which I would say is one of the most common ones we see here. And it has a very ornate shell. If you kind of look at the markings on each of those parts of the shell, very, very ornate. And that sunburst direction forward is pretty easy to identify. The hawksbill sea turtle is another somewhat common. It has a slightly different shape to the head. So it has more of a bill, more of a beak to its head, which is an easier way to identify it. And is, again, a little more common here than some of the others we're going to be looking at. The loggerhead sea turtle, it sounds kind of like what it is. It has quite a large head and is one of the bigger species here as well. And then our biggest one, the leatherback sea turtle, you can't mistake this one. It has beautiful long ridges along its back that go vertically, and it's really, really easy to identify, though one of the hardest ones, I think, to actually find. So it does come into the Gulf of Mexico, and it does lay eggs here as well. I just have not been lucky enough to see one yet. It has quite a broad head as well. And if you have gotten to see one of these, you're very lucky, and I'm very jealous. Moray eels are one of our lucky finds. We do tend to see them. They love to hide in different structures, somewhere they can kind of tuck most of their body away safely and just allow their mouths to protrude. I have been able to get pretty up close with these without any problem, but I have heard that if you ever do disturb them and get bit, it is quite a nasty ordeal and prone to infection while they are not venomous. There are different types of moray eels. We have green, golden, spotted, zebra, and you can see several of those in the Gulf here. You're best off looking in little hidey holes where they like to be, but every now and then you might get lucky enough to spot one actually free swimming, which is quite incredible. The southern stingray is typically found right on the bottom of the ocean floor, and I most commonly see it when diving locally, just off the side of, say, a wreck or a reef. They kind of like to tuck themselves, bury a little bit. And they're carnivorous, unlike some of the other rays that we'll talk about today, but they like to bury just a little bit, and they do have barbs. And I always thought that you had to actually be touching the stingray in order for barb to penetrate you, but actually they can shoot them up. So if you are threatening, or if there is a predator that makes the stingray feel threatened, it can actually shoot up its barb as a defense mechanism, which I think is very cool. The spotted eagle ray is another amazing creature that we see in the Gulf. And this one is not typically found on the bottom. It's usually up in the water column, and it has this really nice, it's almost like it's flying through the water column. And they have a different shape to their head than the stingray, and they have a much more fluid shape as they move and swim through the ocean. And then we have the manta ray, which is different because it's not carnivorous. It is a filter feeder. So you can kind of see that in the mouth here, the filter feeder, and it has a very distinctive head shape. And you're also more likely to see these in the water column. They like to school, and we've been having these in Panama City right now. People have been seeing schools of them, so I hope some of us are lucky enough to actually get to see some here in our local waters. So now, I know we're kind of running out of time. I've only got a few more slides for you, and I wanted to see what you guys already know about sharks. So does anybody want to call out what the upper left-hand corner shark is?
Is that a tiger?
Don't all jump at once.
Is that the tiger shark?
That is a tiger shark. Yeah, you can kind of see those stripes along its body. That's a tiger shark. Anybody know what the upper right-hand corner shark is? It's unfortunate that the nose got cut off because seeing the rounded nose would surely help you identify it.
Is that a
Anybody?
bull shark?
It sure is, yeah. And then the ones on the bottom are a little more easy to identify. Anybody have the lower left-hand corner?
Whale shark.
Well,
Yeah, our favorite whale shark. And then in the right-hand bottom corner, anybody?
hammerhead.
Yeah, scalloped hammerhead. You guys are great. How about the upper left-hand corner here? We actually see these a lot. They're like the golden retrievers.
Is that a
they're
nurse shark?
You're close. Those are also like golden retrievers. This one's a little more toothy. So it doesn't quite have that rounded sort of catfish looking face.
In the chat box, someone typed sand tiger shark.
Oh,
close. This is actually a lemon shark.
Yeah.
It's actually a lemon shark. And we see these a lot, especially when we go down to South Florida, but they do exist here in the Gulf as well. And they're very friendly, very docile. And they look a little intimidating because they're very toothy, but they're really like affectionate. Like they want you to touch them almost. They're really beautiful. Upper right-hand corner. Da, da, da,
great white.
Yeah, that's your great white shark. Good. How about the bottom left-hand corner? Anybody know? Very distinctive tail. Yeah, who said that? Who was that?
Kirk.
Ah, good job. Yeah, that's your thresher shark. Very well done. And then, of course, the bottom right.
Mako.
Is it Mako?
Mako. Yeah. Good for you guys. You know your sharks. That's awesome. I had to include this, Gabrielle knows, because it's my favorite. Just a little bonus marine life. But anybody know what these are? It's perfect time of year for them. They're very small and they're my favorite little things. What's that, Gabrielle?
Christmas tree worms.
Yeah, they're Christmas tree worms. They're so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is just a different species, not quite a Christmas tree worm, but it is a different type of worm, and it unfurls the same kind of way. So they have lots of different colors, and they're just beautiful to look at. And if you kind of just go up to them and just wave your hand near them or even snap, they slurp back into their little hidey hole, and then you get to watch them a moment later just unfurl their beautiful Christmas tree worm. It's very cool. One of my favorite things to look for. In 30 minutes, you don't have enough time to look at all of the small little species of fish that we have. But this is one of the things that I like to hunt for. And I always encourage other divers to find things that they like to kind of hunt for, just for your own, enjoyment. And bonus marine life. What's the upper left-hand corner, guys? It's like a sea caterpillar. What is it?
Urchin.
What's that?
An urchin?
Not quite.
Is that a cucumber?
It's a cucumber. Yeah, it's a sea cucumber. Just a different variety. How about the upper right-hand corner? You guys all probably know, you might not know the specific kind, but what is that in the upper right-hand corner, everybody?
Jellyfish.
You don't want to get stung by it. What is it?
Pink meanie? No.
Yeah, that's a pink meanie. It's a pink meanie jellyfish. Yeah, it's just a really, really big one. And the bottom left, now his chin is a little cut off here, but this is the scuba sign for it. What is that one in the bottom left? Anybody know?
Toadfish.
I think I've seen it before. Is it?
Yeah, Gabrielle, say it again.
Toadfish.
It's a toadfish. We get to see these more often than you might think. They like to hide, but we get lucky a lot, Gabrielle, don't we? We get to see a lot of toadfish, and this is their sign. And then on the bottom right-hand corner, we just saw one of these last week on our lionfish hunting dives. What's that in the bottom right-hand corner? I know it's very well camouflaged, but what is it, guys? Anybody know?
Batfish.
Batfish.
Yeah, it's a batfish. Was that Ronnie that said that?
Yeah.
B-A-T?
Yeah, bat.
Bats, yeah, B-A-T, batfish. And you can kind of see its little wings there, but they're really good at kind of blending in, but they have a very distinctive shape that's kind of easy to see.
And red lips. Some of them.
What's that? Yeah, they have red lips, exactly. It kind of looks like they're wearing lipstick. You get to see them from the face. very bright red lips, which again, we lose that color the deeper we go, but it's pretty cool to see. So I'm try to keep everything kind of right on track and keep our brief 30-minute presentation in that amount of time. But I did want to just say thanks to my sweet husband who's put up with me doing all this stuff so much, being gone for dive trips, and then the leadership team at Life Worth Leading. You guys are amazing and so supportive, and I'm thankful that so many of you are here tonight. And 1,000,001 and more thanks to Gabrielle for everything she's done to, help all of us become better divers and challenge us to learn new things. So fish identification is kind of a new venture for me, and I'm learning a lot as I go. And I'm thankful for the challenge and the guidance and leadership of Gabrielle. So thank you guys. And I'm grateful so many of you were willing to spend a Friday night with me. So just big thanks, and I'm full of gratitude. Thank you guys.
It was a great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Anna Marie. You are awesome. Yeah. And I say everything you touch is
You're awesome.
Everything you touch just is fabulous, from the lionfish hunting course to this. You just managed to connect with our students really well. Jared knows how awesome his wife is, right? And so we are just so grateful you're on our team, that you're teaching us. And I do want to say, if anyone has any questions, please throw it out there. Victor, this is your area of expertise. I'd love to hear your feedback as well.
I think that was great. Congratulations, Anna Marie. I think you did a great job. Always comparing, when you compare different species that look alike from the same groups, it helps people to catch a little bit more about, some of these features that we look at the fish in order to, to properly identify them. I would have added.
Would you put them next to each other, maybe on a slide?
How is that?
Should I put them maybe next to each other on a slide so they can see, instead of one slide after the other, maybe one slide with both of them side by side? Is that helpful?
Yeah, maybe, you can do it for a couple of the species, not for all of the ones that you show, but still you could see the difference. You really make the work to show, for example, in the red snapper and the black line snapper, that dot, and then between the red and the gag grouper, those difference. So they were pretty clear, and that helps. The only thing that I would have added at the end is how having this skill of, properly identifying, getting familiar with these species, how can you help the diving or the science community? So, for example, reef.org, they have a worldwide database where you can go and actually upload your,
images.
The survey that you do, so you can go on specific site. You can report your site and then all the fish that you saw and the counts. So that helps to build, a good way so people can, find it interesting and go there and do their contribution to this thing. But
that's a great point.
Yeah, so that was fantastic. Now I have one question to see. So that when you show the snow tree worm, what is that thing that stick out that we see? What is that? What part of the body of the worm is that?
I'm not entirely sure. My guess would be that it would be like the tongue that it would be able to catch things with to eat.
Exactly. So it's the mouth. It's a part of the mouth that is extending in the water, and basically what is catching, small particles that are dissolved, floating on the water, and they catch that, and then they bring it into their mouth.
So this is why we have marine biologists. You're brilliant.
Yeah, I love those. I
think they're so cool.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. And in the Caribbean, everywhere you go in the reefs, they're everywhere. So it's really beautiful to do. As you said, you just, move the water a little bit around them, and then it will go inside, and then slowly they come out again. So
I love pointing those out. One of the joys and one of the things I'm most excited about in being an instructor is pointing them out to other people and then showing them that and watching their face as they see it, like, contract and then unfurl again. It's really cool to watch other people see that for the first time. So that's one of the other reasons I really just love those.
Yeah. And the last comment is I think it's important during the briefing, right? Actually, to include some of those species that whenever you are visiting a specific dive site, just introduce, pay attention and keep your eyes open. Maybe we will see this species, and go through the hand signals to, if it's a turtle, if it's a batfish, if it's a toadfish or a shark.
Yes.
So pay attention and share your signs and keep track of those cool things that will. And then sometimes you see stuff that you are not completely sure what they are. Usually I have, for example, an identification sheet in my dive.
I do too.
So you can go and just check whatever fish it is, or that really helps and makes the dive pretty interesting, which they can put in their logbooks as well. So it's part of being an instructor, to get your students to get familiar with the fauna, the flora, and make it emotional for them, make that connection. So, but great job. I really enjoy
That's
your
really good feedback. I really appreciate that, Victor. And I'm also working, Gabrielle and I know that this is common, but the first time I saw a dive briefing with real-time doodles on a whiteboard was on our Goliath grouper aggregation. And so I've actually quite literally been practicing my whiteboard Googles of common sightings for dive briefing. So I'm hoping I can include that in the future too.
Absolutely. That definitely is a nice touch. So before we go to Josh, let me get a group photo in case we lose some people. So if everyone can just, if you can turn your cameras on and smile for just a moment. I just want to capture those of you who are here with us tonight on the Zoom. 1, 2, 3. Okay, let me move my fingers. Yeah, you can give okay signs. Let's give okay signs. Nice. Got it. Okay, awesome. Josh, shoot. Yeah, I didn't like your turtle soup and shark fin recipes that you were posting. I didn't mind the other stuff though. I thought it was great until you did that.
I was just trying to participate in the group chat.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I love the presentation. Will this be available in that instructor portal that you're going to have, where we have the lessons? Because I would love to review that, because some of these modules have like talking about different fish and things like that. So I'd love to reference this again.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm like Gabrielle. Like anything I make is anyone's to use, and I'd be happy to directly send you the PowerPoint as well with any edits we make. I'm happy to share any resources.
Also, we have several other instructor presentations, including Ronnie, Victor. We have Victor's reef identification video, which is very more technical and specific to the Taylor County reefs for the monitoring that he does. We have a lot of resources.
His is really good. I watched it. We went a different direction with this, but his is very, very helpful.
It's very thorough. So, yeah. So absolutely. And we are happy to share. And even if you go to the Scuba Friends group and just search for presentation, you'll see a whole bunch that we always want to make our presentations available to people. It's clearly we're an education team, so we're giving feedback about teaching as well, but everybody here has so much to offer. Ronnie's presentations, Victor's presentations, so many other candidates have given great presentations. And I just want to say before we sign off, Anna Marie, thank you. It's really evident that you prepared. One thing I like to ask my instructor candidates is there any one area that you think you need to work on? And we all know Anna Marie, all those of us who know her that she's very strong at just about everything. But the one thing she said she thought she could use a little bit of work on was fish identification. So that's how she ended up with this topic. So
there are lots of things I definitely want to improve on, but this is what I felt was among the weakest things that I feel, diving is a nice, safe, cozy. I feel good about dive tables and I feel good about, physics but man, I look at fish and I go, huh, what? So this was really helpful for me, and I'm looking forward to my next dive and applying my newfound, identification skills.
Yay. And
Thank you.
Marilyn typed in the chat box, Anna Marie rocks. Thank you.
Oh,
And Brad said,
you.
thank you. Great work and presentation. So I don't know if you've had a chance to see these comments, but I did want to call them out for you, Anna Marie, because you have a lot of fans
Well,
among
I just love all of you guys, and I'm really excited that there are a few people here that I don't know yet, that I'm looking forward to hopefully diving with soon. So thanks for jumping on and learning with me and cheering me on. It's just really nice to have such a supportive group of dive buddies. So I just appreciate everyone a whole bunch. Thank you.
Thank you. And it is great to see some of our current students here as well. So, all right, everyone. Anyone have anything else they want to say to Anna Marie? Having heard nothing else, let's all give her our favorite reactions here, whatever you want to react and say thank you, thank you, thank you. Good job. And congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you for everything, Gabrielle. You're the best.
You're the best. All right. All right. Take care, everyone. Good night.
Thank you, everyone, so much.
See some of you in the pool tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.